I got so by B yesterday. He's like the size of a big fire. It is, do you want to see it? Then do you want to know? I locked myself out of my house.
Did I put the key down?
Still there, hammer and lock the door down?
I had to climb into the window after I got stung by the bee. It was a conversation. It wasn't locked, I just.
Oh.
It's cool. I know. I'll get you out, Julie.
You want me to go get it? Okay.
She's gonna be excited. Oh, you got yours. Good. Okay, there. Okay. We want the door.
It shouldn't. It should just go return to fall and be nice and blessed again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it doesn't always happen. I know. And you get confused. I'm confused. I was
Right there. Uh-oh.
But I got you, Chris. It's cooler down here.
I wish I remembered. Then he'll be on the rest of the week. It was on the big grants Passover. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you. You saw one of the burgers where we did all of like. I saw that. The burgers are amazing. I don't know, yeah. There's a lot of. Are they gonna put it in the wall? Yeah, they're gonna put it in the window, and so we did also, we did an open and price that the rock. You're gonna put it so, no, I don't. They're gonna show that board. Thanks for noticing.
What that's like. You're not gonna. Yeah, totally. Well, I haven't read the shit. It's okay. It's nothing else gonna make you. Nothing's gonna make you upset. I want to know. Timing. It's work days. I know, but that's not the way it is. As far as our meeting on Saturdays or something.
Recording in progress.
They asked us. That's almost
Call to order the regular meeting of the Rio Dell City Council. We are reconvening from closed session into open session. From item 1 on the closed session, there is nothing to report. On item 2 on the closed session, the City Council appointed a temporary ad hoc committee consisting of Mayor Garnes and Mayor Pro Tem Carter. And now we may stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public presentations. This is the time for persons who wish to address the council on any matter not on this agenda and over which the council has jurisdiction. As such, a dialogue with the council or staff is not allowed under the Ralph M. Brown Act. Items requiring council actions not listed on this agenda may be placed on the next regular agenda for consideration if the council directs, unless a finding is made by at least 2/3 of the council that the item came up after the agenda was posted and is of an urgency nature requiring immediate action. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Come on up. So, welcome.
My name is Jeanette Kellerman, and I came here last week or last session, and I wanted to come back and do this properly. I have a plaque for Crystal and the Rio Dell Police Department for going above and beyond in our community for our mental health and substance abuse people, as well as anybody else in the community, and wanted to.
Thank you.
Thanks, you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. Would anyone else like a public comment? Are there any hands raised? Any emails? Then we will close public presentation and move to the consent calendar. Is there anyone on the council who would like to remove an item from the consent calendar?
Yes, I'd like to remove item number 7.
Item number 7, is there anyone from the public who would like to remove something from the consent calendar? Then I will ask for a motion to approve items 1 through 6 of the consent calendar.
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0. Councilmember Wilson, item number 7.
Yes, okay. A little more clarification on that. I read it that we're needing to do this 1383. If I'm reading my the package, I thought that HWA was going to actually be the one taking wood waste or what was that?
Yeah, so we have an exemption from the collection activity of the materials. So we're talking about organics
For a couple of years.
So we're not really involved in terms of the jurisdictions moving the material down to Dry Creek in the Ukiah area. So we have a waiver from that requirement, but we do have a requirement to do procurement. And so procurement is on the back end. All of this new organic material is created, it needs to go. And so under SB 1383, jurisdictions are required to purchase the material and one way or the other have it distributed through a certification process through CalRecycle. And so this opportunity with the vendor is what most or a lot of the other jurisdictions are doing to have a professional outfit kind of fulfill that requirement. One of the problems associated with if we were to bring the material back into Humboldt County and back into Rio Dell for us to distribute, we would need a partner to do that. We have, significant amount of compost that needs to go out the door this year alone, approximately 100 tons. And so so it just adds an extra layer of bureaucracy to try to find out how to distribute this. 100 tons is a lot of material. There's no way you're going to distribute it amongst community members with their gardens. Correct. The other factor is the cost of this particular agreement is significantly lower than the cost of trucking the material back from Dry Creek. So the other agencies are required to move the material down there. We would be under the traditional idea of having the material come back into Rio Dell. We would be paying, trucking fees, which would probably be on the order of at least $2,000 a delivery. So it's significantly cheaper to have it closer to the distribution point, wherever that is in the state of California. And it's unfortunate that the state law kind of disadvantages rural, small areas where we don't have a local processing facility at this time. So to understand how this works, but I guess how it physically plays out. The organic material, we're not doing anything with it right now individually in the city, or no, we're not required under SB 1383 to collect this material, the organic material.
So where does it show up, and how do they get their hands on it the whole way?
From the other jurisdictions. So irregardless of where it comes from, we're obligated to purchase it. And so this is at the moment the cheapest, most effective way of meeting this requirement and checking it off of our list. So for this calendar year, we have a requirement of about 100 tons of material to distribute. We've been 3 months to do it in order to check this off the list with CalRecycle. And then the following year, we have 154 roughly tons of material that we need to also distribute. So in this way, we're getting closer to the distribution point, still getting the credits and all of the certification that we've met the requirement, and doing it in the cheapest, most cost-effective manner possible.
How do the citizens, how do we, I guess, authorize identify it that this is organic waste from me? Well, do I put it in a bag somewhere or clean it up?
So, yeah, so again, the city of Rio Dell is not required. So we have a waiver that will have to be renewed every 5 years. And the state law allowed us to continue to file the waiver until I believe 2036. And so we are not required to collect organic materials within the city of Rio Dell to be redistributed to an organics processing facility. Again, the closest facility is in Mendocino County in the Ukiah area. So all that material that the other jurisdictions are required to collect has to be trucked physically down to that location because there's nowhere to put it in Humboldt County. And then on top of that, they will also be required as Rio Dell is to procure the material and distribute it with certification that it was appropriately distributed. So a lot of the other jurisdictions are doing similar things. For example, you might wonder how would Los Angeles comply with SB 1383. they're doing the exact same thing. So they're collecting material, obviously, in a large city that then goes to these major processors, and then they can't, that would be an enormous amount of material to bring back into Los Angeles or really any of the cities. Really, the only place to distribute that would be in large agricultural areas like the San Fernando or California Central Valley and places like that.
If we're not required to collect, how do they know how much we have to that zone?
So they come up with a formula just based off of our population that they use.
That's how it's a formula that they're using. It's not a physical, it's a virtual.
Yeah, it has nothing. If anything, if it was based on the actual material we collected, we should have no requirement to then purchase the material. But we are required to join in the purchasing the back end of this process.
So it's a regulatory. Okay, I know how to explain. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone from the public? Any hands raised, any emails? Councilmember Wilson, would you care to make a motion to accept?
So
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0. Now we move on to the reports, staff communication, city manager, staff update, page 48 in our packets, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garth, members of the council. So staff is working to make application for the latest round of community development block grant funding, with the focus being on an infrastructure project, which would be the final ADA portion of the Eel River Trail, which the council may recall had to be removed from the projects because of inflation, and the state would not provide additional financial resources for the project to complete it as designed. So we're excited about that, but that is a pretty significant undertaking. We're working on currently the NEPA requirements and to get that application ready for the next round. We have had conversations with staff from the Department of Housing and Community Development that they're very, very interested and aware of this particular project and would be very interested in funding that. There's also been a discussion regarding some physical improvements to the police department, including evidence storage, gun distraction, and safety improvements. And Crystal's been working really hard on that. And we hope to have an item before the council in the relatively near future to put out a bid and do some of these improvements down in the police department. With that, I really have nothing else to add to the staff update, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, city manager. Mayor Pro Tem.
No question, thank you.
Are these the same gun destruction that we had council action? I don't know, say 2 years ago.
Correct. There was a council action roughly 2 years ago. No action. No guns have been destroyed at this point. But there has been work, quite a bit of work to make sure that the guns are categorized correctly for destruction.
Public, any questions from the public? Any hands raised, any emails? And we will close that item. Our next item is a special presentation by the County of Humboldt on the draft Regional Climate Action Plan and associated environmental impact report. Receiving file, page 56 in our packet. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor Barnes, members of the City Council. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is John Ford. I'm joined by Megan Acevedo, and we will be giving a presentation on the Regional Climate Action Plan. So while we are from the County of Humboldt and the Planning and Building Department, we are really here representing a regional effort. This is an effort that has been conducted by not only the county, but all the cities, including Rio Dell within the county of Humboldt. Joining us in this effort has been our CEA, our CAA, HTA, HWMA. So this is truly a regional effort. I'm going to ask Ms. Acevedo now to come and give you a short presentation. Then we'd be happy to answer any questions and take your comments. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Megan Acevedo, and I'll be presenting the Humboldt Regional Climate Action Plan. Slide. So the Climate Action Plan started in 2019 with a working group that included all incorporated cities, Humboldt County, and our CEA. The original drafting of the Climate Action Plan included jurisdictional targets, which you can see in the pie graph here, which gave each jurisdiction an amount of greenhouse gas emissions reductions that they would need to achieve to reach our goals in the Climate Action Plan. The public draft of that draft of the Climate Action Plan was released in 2022, and through analyzing the measures and actions in the plan, it was found to be aspirational and did not achieve a qualified cap that could be adopted through CEQA. Slide. We have since refocused the Climate Action Plan to achieve a qualified cap, and this included contracting with our consultant, Rincon Consultants, to prepare the environmental impact report. And through their analysis, they recommended that we make these changes to achieve a qualified cap. In October of 2023, we got that approved by the Board of Supervisors to reallocate the funding that was originally for the EIR to redraft the Climate Action Plan to be a qualified cap. And we came out with the updated Regional Climate Action Plan in 2024, June of 2024. Slide. So the redrafting of the Climate Action Plan, it included redoing the inventory to be more current. The previous draft had a 2015 greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and the current draft has a 2022 inventory. The measures and actions included in the current draft were refined through interviews with stakeholders, including Humboldt Waste Management Authority, Redwood Energy Coast Authority, and Humboldt Transit Authority and HCOG, and including all incorporated cities and Humboldt County. And these measures and actions have been vetted out through these interviews and workshops to be achievable goals that are supported by the stakeholders. So the current Regional Climate Action Plan, as you can see in the graph here, it identifies greenhouse gas emissions that are produced currently, or at least in 2022, by sector. And so we can see that on-road transportation has the highest emissions levels at 73%, and building natural gas and electrification is in second place with 13% of emissions. So part of what this redrafting of the Climate Action Plan did was it identified the need for urban measures versus rural measures, specifically with building electrification and transportation. The county is very rural. We needed to make some specific goals for the rural areas, so not to overcommit them to these measures and actions. And this draft also includes the Regional Climate Committee, and that is a big part of this plan, which once this Regional Climate Committee is established, they will be the authority to make sure that we are reaching the goals of the Climate Action Plan, and will be also responsible for obtaining funding to get these goals achieved. Slide. Here in this graph, we can see our forecast and targets. So the top line, the dotted line, is the emissions from 2020, or I guess it's 1990. And then we have the adjusted forecast, which includes state legislation that will also reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the area. And then we've identified a target of 219,000 metric tons of CO2 emission reduction by 2030. And an additional 1.2 million metric tons of CO2 emissions reductions by 2045. We also need to reach carbon neutrality by 2045. So with this draft of the climate action plan, it is a more regional approach that all jurisdictions would need to be involved in order to try and achieve the total goals. Slide. And the structure of the CAP, of the regional CAP, includes strategies for reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. It identifies the goals that we need to reach in order to be a qualified CAP. And it identifies reasonable actions in order to achieve those greenhouse gas emissions reductions. Slide. The key strategies of the Regional Climate Action Plan include renewable energy, increasing renewable energy to power our jurisdictions, and building electrification and decarbonization, reducing vehicle miles traveled and increasing zero emission vehicles and electric vehicle use, reducing organic waste. And you did just discuss SB 1383, and that is also a part of what we are trying to achieve with the Regional Climate Action Plan, is to divert our organic waste, and that is part of what we're going to try to achieve with this CAP. And then also we include our natural working lands and sequestration capacity. That is not included in the greenhouse gas emission reduction amounts now, but we will have to assess the capacity for our working lands, for the saltwater marsh lands and forest lands, and their capacity to sequester carbon. Slide. So the Regional Climate Committee is really the highest priority measure. It is the first measure included in the list of 29 measures total. And this will include the creation of a program manager that will be responsible for obtaining the funding that will fund our staff and other stakeholder jurisdictions, their work to get this stuff done. So this could be a new or existing joint powers authority. We have received great support with using HCOG, an existing joint powers authority for this Regional Climate Committee, and they are already looking into getting that approved with their board. And this leverages funding. Having a regional climate action plan is a more desirable project for funders to fund. And we are also leveraging the existing projects that are ongoing in the county, and this plan will help to continue funding that work. Slide. So the RCAP was released for public review on August 14th. And we had public comments being received till September 20th. Then we released the notice of preparation for the EIR on that was August 20th. And I have received several public scoping comments. And then we had a public meeting. This was from a previous presentation, but that was on September 10th. Where we informed the members of the public on the plan and what it entails. And we are underway with the EIR. and are hoping to have an EAR adopted by June of 2025. Slide. So what we're asking for today is for council members to provide any comments that you have on the draft regional climate action plan that may be incorporated into the plan, to accept the draft regional cap for the EAR project description, and to direct staff on the development of a climate committee or utilizing an existing joint powers authority. I just want to mention that we will be going back to our Board of Supervisors on October 22nd with the updated draft that includes the public comments received. And that ends my presentation, and we're available for questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Councilmember Wilson?
Yeah, back, when you go back to the page where it talks about the goal is the 2030 target set in comparison to 1990. Were the pulp mills shut down, or not shut down, but were operated in 1990?
They were in operation, I believe. Those emissions were not included in this inventory, but the electrification for the industry is included.
Why is it that this question that I see your boss is going to look at, because this is presented to here once before, I think probably more than 3 or 4 years ago, and the fact that you have these pulp mills that contributed extremely to the greenhouse gas of Humboldt County, that's excluded, and I understand it was at the discretion of this board or this entity to decide not to do that. When we, by following that procedure, we probably already exceeded the limits, and you're asking us to, a broken wheel has been fixed, that now you want to apply the same rules to the broken wheel.
So one of the very important things, thank you for the question, by the way. And I if you'll allow me to try to explain this, I hope that it'll give better insight into what the revised RCAP has really done. So number one is that we don't have authority to regulate what comes out of a stack in an industrial plant. So the RCAP really only focuses on the climate action plan, period, only focuses on what the local jurisdiction has authority to regulate. Things that come out of industrial stacks are regulated by the state. That's regulated through the cap and trade program. We don't have any involvement with that. So anything like that has been taken out of the inventory. Anything that we don't regulate, like agriculture, has been taken out of the inventory. So what that has done is allowed us to develop a much more realistic baseline. And as Ms. Acevedo said, used a 2022 baseline. So it was a very recent number. And then that was backcast back to 1990. There's equations that the state accepts, acknowledges, allows to be used to backcast back to the 1990 level. And so but it doesn't allow us to include things that we don't regulate. I've said that 3 times now. I'll stop saying that. The other thing that's a real struggle for us, because you're right, we are not a big greenhouse gas emitter. When you consider, you look out the beautiful window there and you see all the forest that's out there. We are a carbon sink. We absorb much more carbon in this entire county than we emit. Unfortunately, right now, we can't get credit for that. So part of the objective of the climate action plan is to really start to study that, work with the state, work within ourselves to develop criteria by which we can evaluate just how much of a carbon sink we are, so that by 2045, we achieve that sense of carbon neutrality because we're absorbing more carbon than we're emitting. I hope that answers your question. I know it's already asked for, but I think it's important to understand how complicated the state has made really formulating these climate action plans. There's things that we get to touch There's things that we don't get to touch. The things that we don't regulate are things we don't get to touch. I said I wouldn't say that again. I did. I'm sorry.
And I appreciate your answer. And I have, I'm not spoken about it, but the state continually puts requirements on, particularly the rural. The system isn't geared to deal with the rural people for everything. From HWMA on there with the CRV and all of this different things that have been done, 1383, same kind of deal. And so they're constantly asking the rural communities to fix something that's beyond their control to fix. It's not broken, like you said, it's, the amount of greenhouse carbon that we absorb, as the fact that the forest isn't harvested near as what it used to be. And it's doing its job, but yet we're continually being asked, and on your end, probably more because it costs county money to staff the people to do that. And so I just want to enter that comment that it's discouraging the candidate to say doesn't really pay attention or really respect or mitigate the rural communities that we are in a big portion of the Northern California, which is not considered Northern California. We're Northern California.
Comments absolutely accepted, respected, and understood. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Wilson. Councilmember Hall. No questions. No questions. Thank you, and thank you for that explanation. Really, it clarified things. Big deal. It's really appreciated. Thank you for coming and making the presentation. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Was there anyone public comment, any hand raised, emails? Only hand, we will say thank you. And we will close that item. We move to special call, discussion on the Eel River Trail non-infrastructure art component, page 80 in our packets. For the manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes and members of the council. So as the council will recall, the city was a recipient of a Clean California grant. We actually received 2 of them, one for our Gateway Improvement Project, and then also for our Eel River Trail, which is currently under construction. So in the trail document, in the grant requirements, the city has a number of kind of non-infrastructure items that are a requirement of the grant. And so part of this component, and by the way, non-infrastructure components of large state grants are very, very common. For example, under our last big state project, the Active Transportation Plan project, which reformed the north end of Wildwood Avenue, have requirements for this city to specifically work with the school district on bike education, bicycle safety education. So in this case, because this is a beautification program in the state of California, born out of sort of a period where the state had some surpluses, this is more beautification oriented in that part of the grant requirement is that the city install a piece of art in the project location for the Eel River Trail. Part of that requirement includes some various requirements, including square footage. There are some other requirements in the grant, including bench seating, items like that. And so part of the strategy moving forward, as devised with RCAA and staff, is attached to your packet. So the location that we're talking about is really on the Edwards Street side of the trail project, immediately after the yellow gate. It will be a parking area that will include just a small pedestrian area for things like garbage cans and a kiosk for maps and that sort of thing, explanation of the trail. And there's also a proposal for a art installation outlined conceptually on page 82 and more firmly on page 83 as the design concept for the project. It both incorporates a bench and an art piece, an art component. So on either side of the bench, or excuse me, of the arch, you will see on the lower end those abutments come out, and those are actually seating areas. And then really the centerpiece is a public art component, again required by the grant. Required that it be, professional artists hired for the position. So we're creating a job for an artist out of this position. And then that the art also be competitively selected by the community at large. So what that looks like exactly is, up for debate. But generally, the idea we can talk a little bit about that. There's a handout here from RCAA that outlines that a little bit more in terms of what the selection process would look like. But generally, there could be a social media voting system, or probably more ideal to allow it to be verifiably selected by community members, some sort of open house where art proposals are submitted or artists are submitted, and then folks who attend vote on the submissions, and then that artist is given the green light to go ahead and create their piece of art. So again, this is just one component of the overall trail project. Obviously, the vast majority of what we work on related to this trail has to do with the actual physical infrastructure, working with the contractor on the project. And so the non-infrastructure component is relatively small, but it's very important. And again, it is a Clean California project where the emphasis is on respecting public spaces and beautification of public facilities. And really in Rio Dell, one of the best public facilities available to everybody is really the river bar, the river, and hopefully our new Eel River Trail will be a great addition to that. So on page 84, and then also just a handout that was provided to you, are some concept examples generated by Rio Community Action Agency as the conceptual final kind of implementation of the archway. All of the pieces of art are, won't appear as they do here. The centerpiece again will be competitively selected amongst the community. And then the side component, just to absolutely make sure that, we are involving the school and the children in this project, was a concept developed by Denise Newman, who's on the line, for us to have an installation of art tiles. The art tiles, this portion of this is not actually required in the grant. But we wanted to incorporate this as a way for local school children to be involved in the project and to kind of put their stamp on the facility and the overall project. And so the idea are art tiles where students are individually allowed to pick amongst a catalog of, say, creatures native to the river. So it might be mountain lions, bobcats, butterflies, bumblebees, salmon, or plants for that matter. And then without, totally directive drawing them, having the children go ahead and draw those animals, draw those flowers, draw those things, and be able to put their name on the corner of the tile. In theory that, 20 years later, they come back down and find their tile on the art piece. So generally that is the concept moving forward. You can see there are some other ideas, potentially on the bottom of page 84, you see, well, a real simple, straightforward project, not involving tiles and artists to that we would have to hire to work with the students to do their artwork, and then putting it in a kiln and all that stuff would be just handprints or whatever. But, the tile situation seemed to be most appropriate and the best value to have kind of a long-term facility that hopefully would be free from graffiti, but also easily cleanable in such an event. And then the other thing that we had talked about with the centerpiece of it potentially being digitally copied and printed and hung in the location as opposed to physically painted onto the surface, so that if there is future vandalism, it's as simple as taking it down, replacing the digital artwork, and then placing it back up. And so there's super high resolution, imaging that you can use to, a painted artist or a digital artist or whatever, we could have that reproduced for the site. So with that, and I don't know if Denise Connors is on the line. Denise, you'll have to unmute yourself, but I don't know if you have any other comments before we turn it back to the council on that.
No, thank you, Kyle, for giving a sweeping overview of the two components that I'm working on, and I'll just be waiting for council approval and just to look over the call for art. Some of these pieces are timely. The call for art really needs to go out. Our contract, RCAA with the city, ends the end of this year. And so this contract, we're a little bit behind the ball. So as soon as we can get that rolling, the call for artists, that would give us enough time to oversee this project in a way that feels good, and also starting to work with the Eagle Prairie students. As soon as we can get council approval that we're good to go, then we can hit the ground running with the students as well. And that's all I really had. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, city manager. I will bring it to council, Councilmember Woodall.
We're just saying our opinion, right? Yeah. No, I think it looks great. And the tiles, I don't know if any of you remember at the mall, when you were going back, the wall had all the kids' tiles. It was wonderful. I love that, but they've taken that away. But I enjoyed that, and I think people would enjoy the tiles also.
Councilmember Orr?
Yeah, I too love the idea of the tiles, especially getting school children buy-in, just because there's so few options as far as getting visible pride in the community around here, other than riding around and making our own art. So yeah, absolutely, 100% tiles.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes, I think it's a great idea. Is this, the tiles and the involvement of the students from the school, is this included in this? Was included in the grant? And this, I don't recall this being bought before this, right, as part of the grant money. In fact, we exhausted the grant money. If I understand right, we still have to do the ADA part. Great.
Yeah, so no, it is included in the project budget. It has been from the very beginning to do the art component as part of the requirement in order to have a successful application, and which was awarded. So as the council will recall, the ADA portion, the far end of the trail had to be kind of lopped off of the project because it was way over budget, and that would have put at risk this portion of the project, or made it very, very simple and not quite as robust as this. So by lopping that portion of the project off, and hopefully we'll find other grant funding to complete that portion of the project, we actually have, we will probably at the end of the day be returning some of the grant money to the state. So there's no budget issue related to this artwork. It's going to fit within the project budget and be reimbursable, and it's a requirement of the grant. Terrific.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I really like the idea of the tiles. Just enough direction, but not too much, so it looks nice and uniform. I do not like the handprints. I just want to go ahead and say that. The tiles much more than I like the handprints. As far as the center art is concerned, I would much rather have a good old fashioned in-person public forum than, I don't know, a social media thing. Let's get everybody in here, serve them donuts or something and get them to, I mean, I want there to be that kind of in-person community engagement, not just like this kind, you know. That's my take, but that's it. Thank you.
I think that's reasonable.
Can I respond to that, Amanda?
Sure.
In the call for art, and you're welcome to, feedback is welcome, please. But the way we have it right now is that artists will submit some of their original work and then a narrative of how they would fill this space specific to the themes that we were seeking. Then as one potential, there'd be an internal committee of just a handful of people who would then distill that down to the top 3, say. And
Sure.
then that top 3, we'd ask those 3 artists to flesh it out and to do like a 30% conceptual design. And then those 3 would be voted upon by the community in whatever forum or format Rio Dell it feels is best. So that's something that's up for discussion of that process. But that way we have 3 that have been distilled down that represent different art styles or different, takes. And then we select 1, and then the other 2 are given a financial award for their time. And then we select that 1. And so that original piece of art is something that could hang at City Hall, and then we would do a high resolution scan reproduction of it for this project, and merch. You can make some hats and some t-shirts and whatever you want to do with the artist's permission. But so that was one idea. So when you have a chance to look through the call for art, some of the fine details are in there. And for those folks that are interested in being a part of this process, I would love to hear your feedback. So.
Thank you, Denise. Yes, whatever the process is to narrow it down is fine. We actually already have a beautification committee in the city, so there might, we could form a new one or we can use the one we have. But I do just, I like a good public forum.
Together,
Yes,
in person.
in person.
That's it.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, and I'm excited about this. What I wonder, and it might not be possible because it might be too much to do, but I wonder, is there a way that we can reach out to the children of Rio Dell? I know the school, but there are a lot of kids who go to Scotia. There are kids that go to Hydesville, children that live here in this community and would like to be a part of that. Is there any way that we can actually reach out and ask? And I don't have the answer to that question. That's why I'm asking it. Is there a way that we can reach out to more of the children of Rio Dell or their parents so that they can reach out to their children and expand it beyond Eagle Prairie, same age range, but for the kids who live here, who have pride here, who want to come back and see their thing here, but through no fault of their own, it's basically their parents' decision, they go to Scotia or they go to Hydesville. Is that, or Fortuna, is that something that can be done? If it's not, it's not, but that's my question.
If we do 2-by-2-inch tiles, we can invite everybody. It's a limiting factor of space, but I'm open to any suggestion of the size of the tiles and how many we can fit in that space. That's the limiting factor. Certainly the day that they pour the concrete, if it becomes a community event where kids get to go put a handprint in, I've seen that done before when cement's being poured. So that's a possibility for that. But as far as that space, I'm willing to do whatever you'd like to see to fill that space. We do have a, limiting factor of space.
Right, absolutely. I totally get that.
Crystal's got her hand.
So in total, we have about 320 kids combined between Monument Middle School and the elementary school. So that's the numbers we're working with there.
Okay.
And if your question, are you concerned about like the inter-district kids who actually reside in Rio Dell and
That's my question is, the kids who live here through no fault of their own, are they going to Rio Dell
Well,
school?
so if we're talking about Rio Dell kids who are inter-district and other schools who would like to see their art displayed, we can contact the principal. They know who all the inter-districts are because they have to get forms to be inter-district and they have to be approved. So we can draw those kids in and see if they do want to participate. I don't think it would make our numbers that much higher, but our numbers here locally are 320. I don't know how big the tiles are, but.
Well, and I think just, and maybe Denise can chime in on this, but I don't think the intent was for, all K through 8 or
Okay.
K through 12, but, age appropriate selection, but I don't know if Denise had any other comments on that.
Well, we worked with Miss Kaiser's class last year and Mr. Molyneux's class, and they were the trail stewards. And for some of you that came and joined us at the Eel River last year, we did a little outreach event where the students became naturalists and led different aspects of the natural and cultural history talk. So that was the classroom we were going to follow up with. They've learned a lot about the Eel River habitat and environment and natural cultural history. And so those are the ones that were going to be selected for this tile. But I hear what you're saying, Deborah, and I get that as far as it almost seems like putting it out there for kids who want to submit art and, almost making that not a competition too, but just whoever wants to submit it. What if all the kids in Miss Kaiser's class don't really want to submit art? Now they're forced to, but there's other kids that would have been invited to do so. So let me think about that one and see how we can make it more inclusive. I think that's a super important point.
And I was thinking, I didn't know it was going to go K through 8. I thought Eagle Prairie, which is not K through 8, it's more narrow, isn't it?
Miss Kaiser's class is the fourth grade.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, whatever age group you were going with, if those children in that age group go to another school outside of Rio Dell, but live in Rio Dell, then that's what I was thinking. They could be included if that was a doable thing. But think about it.
I have something to say about that. I think there's potential for other art projects down there too. I mean, all of Edwards Avenue is super prone to graffiti, as we're all aware. So I do think there are other things we can investigate that maybe aren't the specific tiles, but could be other art projects that would then include other people. And I know this person who'd be really good at recruiting for stuff like that, and our solution is right there. But anyway, just throwing it out there. I do think we have some walls that are prone to graffiti that maybe we should think about doing our projects on. And
The green wall.
yes, and then maybe recruiting other kids for that.
So is the action that, is there any public comments? Donna? Go.
Yeah. So a couple notes that I made on this. Do I have to come up here?
Yes.
Yeah. And identify yourself.
Jonathan Brodier. Okay, so but first thing is, how much money is available in this that you're doing? For the art?
I don't have the number.
No approximate, okay. So I was just curious about how much is there, but I have had a dream of doing other art projects here, which is like that green wall, okay? I just sent a picture to both you ladies. If you're down there at the trail, the wastewater wall right there, there's a gigantic wall.
Okay.
And also the tank.
I hate to
Okay,
cut you off, but if that's not agenda.
that's not the agenda. You're literally just.
Yes, we're talking about this one.
That tiny little kiosk.
I mean, and we can come back, we can bring that back at a different meeting.
Oh.
But this particular.
Well, then
I don't.
Well, then in that too, then I would just say then, since we're not gonna talk about any of this, as you were saying, like other kids to, not just elementary school, there's, my son's in high school and goes to Fortuna, but he's here in the school, here too. So are you just incorporating just elementary school kids? And then in that too, I would also say, can you do, like, choose a native plant or native animal to do your tiles with? So maybe people go down there and they say, here's a plant, and they can identify it on the trail, and they'll have a name and a kid draws a picture.
I think that is actually.
So, just, yeah.
So,
there you go.
thank you, Donna. I'm sorry to cut you off on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, where's direction to staff? What is the direction that you're asking us? For what direction are you asking?
We're just interested in hearing the council's comments on this. I don't think it was specifically agendized for a specific
Was it possible?
direction, but,
I think-
I think Denise has been taking notes and I've been taking notes, and so.
And I think we all agree that art tiles, kids, other art, thumbs up,
No
and,
handprints.
no handprints. No one wants handprints. Okay.
And if there's a committee for me to work with, as far as refining the call for art to make sure that everything's incorporated that people would like to see, that would be helpful.
The call for art looks okay to me.
Okay, yeah. I agree.
The whole process of your narrowing it, like, that sounds fine. The 30%.
That sounded good to me.
Please do it. I don't want to do it.
Okay. So we're good? Okay. Thank you, Denise. If you have any other questions, call Kyle. We appreciate you being here tonight, and we appreciate you being here this past weekend. Okay. Now, were there any, did I already ask about hands and no? Okay. Now we will move on to the discussion on potential 2025 road slurry sealing project, 85 in our packets. City manager.
All right, thank you, Mayor Barnes and members of the council. So periodically, the cities and the counties get together to do a regional slurry seal project. This has been going on since about 2015 or so, or 2016. The idea being that, fundamentally with pavement management, maintenance is always significantly cheaper than road reconstruction. One of the tools available is slurry sealing. And so annually, I think there's been about 4 of these slurry seal projects. The city has participated in 3 of them. And so our PCI index has also gotten significantly improved since the 2017 cycle. And so slurry sealing has been a part of that improvement. And so we were recently informed by the city of Arcata that they're going to be engaging in another slurry seal project in next fiscal year. So starting potentially as early as July of 2025. And that basically, given the timeline of how this works, we would need to make a submission to them by the end of October, whether we wanted to participate in those slurry seals. I will say one of the other big advantages that the slurry seal projects bring is the professional line painting. So the road markings, it's very expensive to do kind of one-off projects. But when we do these in the past, what we've been able to do is have the lining of the streets also be part of the project. And so a lot of the lines currently in the city need to be updated. So anyways, so that's one of the other advantages, because it's not just slurry sealing, they also do pavement marking. So staff has developed or looked at initially 3 potential projects and kind of looking at the current needs of the streets. There's obviously a lot of other streets that we could do as well. So Center Street from Wildwood to Ireland, so essentially the school, the street in front of the school would be our recommended #1 project. The lines there at the very least need to be repainted, all of them. And the road surface itself is actually at the classic stage where if we get it right now, the pavement's going to be significantly extended. So for example, Davis Street, when we did that, it was kind of well past its prime, but we also didn't have money to reconstruct it. So we've extended it, but obviously the life of Davis Street, but obviously it really just ultimately needs to be repaved entirely. Whereas Center Street in front of the school, if we get at it now, the street will be, significantly there will be significant cost savings associated with Center Street. With that, we may need to do some minor patch repairs in there. It's possible with the council just approving our contracts or approving the or awarding the bids for our pay projects. We could get them to do just a couple minor corrections on Center Street while they are here under contract. The other option is City Hall parking lot. I'm not, I'm always concerned a little bit about the optics of that. But again, we're talking about trying to save ultimately money in the long run. So City Hall parking lot does need some patch repairs on the front end here. And then there's also just some potholes towards the police department that kind of create a drainage issue, and water is always the enemy of pavement surfaces. So City Hall parking lot, the east side of the building only, up through the police department. And then one of the other projects, and this one might be a little bit controversial, is, the city is responsible for Wildwood Avenue all the way from Eloa all the way to the bridge to Scotia. And so this is a major, thoroughfare, receives a lot of heavy traffic, truck traffic, vehicular traffic. And we have noticed, particularly in the last couple of years, just a general deterioration of the road surface, which was in fantastic position, but it's cracking, it's showing significant wear and tear. But we don't really have the funding, and it probably wouldn't be advisable to slurry seal the entire surface. That would include non-travel lanes, so parking lanes, the center median, that sort of thing. But it's possible to do kind of just the travel lanes. And you'll see that Caltrans does this in various locations. So if you've recently traveled from Eureka to Arcata along the Samoa road, they did a slurry seal there where they just covered the travel lanes. And then they, so you get kind of these weavy, they're not perfect straight edges, but they're a little bit weavy. They're not perfect. And then you repaint over the lines, which kind of cleans it up a little bit. But that, could be seen as a little bit controversial just because aesthetically, visually, you'll have a road surface with some different gradients of color. With that, we would recommend hiring out to do crack sealing prior to the work. And then depending on, the material that's left on the surface afterwards, it's possible that the crack sealing shows a little bit through the slurry sealing. So it won't, necessarily be the most perfect aesthetic finish, but it would extend the life of that road and thereby saving cost to the city for the maintenance of that main thoroughfare, which really should be the number one priority for road fund expenditures. So with that, those are the three projects we'd like the council to consider. The 2 and 3 are kind of optional if the council would like to do it. We can make it happen. Number 1, I think though, while we have this opportunity to scale and have all of these other bids lower our price and have Arcata kind of take the lead on running the administration of it, that we might as well get Center Street done while the iron stops, so to speak. And then I don't know if Randy has anything else to add before we turn it over to the council.
I concur with all 3 of the options for the most part. So yeah, Center Street definitely needs it. City parking lot definitely needs some maintenance. There is the optics of spending money at City Hall, but it needs it. Otherwise, you're going to be repaving and it's going to cost you a lot more. And then while with afternoon, that's a judgment call as far as aesthetics go, as far as I can see that. So I agree.
And the other thing I would just add, these are real rough cost estimates. So we can do a little bit more of a deep dive on cost estimates if the council would like. But again, if you were to resurface all of these streets, it's significantly, it's on a magnitude 15 times as expensive.
So when you're talking about the lines that need to be updated or painted and how that's included, is that just for the streets that they're paving?
No, so what we did, and what we've done each time is we've expanded the line markings, because it's thermoplastic. There are no contractors here really locally who, in my opinion, do it well. And if you do it well, it lasts like a really long time. If you don't do it well, it might last 12 months. And so we've actually hired out independently on past projects to have the lines done, and it's never really worked out, and it's always been incredibly expensive. So the idea here, we would also be looking at other markings, particularly the stops and the crosswalks, to make sure that they're cleared up, and we've done that.
So I patrol during school time, and one of the, sorry.
It's really, yeah, it's all questions and responses are through the neck.
Sorry. Councilmember Orr, do you have any questions?
I think, to be honest, all of them need it, but definitely in front of the school, and just safety first. And it may not seem like a big deal with the painting on the lines and stuff, but it can be.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I'd be interested in more analysis of all of these, but I also think Center Street, I ride my bike down there, it's very junky. And again, for safety and lines. And my other question is, what was Crystal gonna say about the lines?
Ireland Street, we need lines for the kids really bad. There's no bike lanes. It's a wide street, but the kids are everywhere and the cars are driving, and it's pretty scary not having bike lanes for the kids on Ireland. So I'd like to see that.
But then just in the vicinity of the school, it sounds like. So yeah, I mean, again, they all need it, but I'd go ahead and just say Center Street right off the top of my head.
Councilmember Woodall?
Randy, was Center Street the one we slurry sealed quite a while ago, the whole street?
We repaved it.
Huh? We repaved it. Oh, okay.
It's safe around the school project.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd like to see it all slurry sealed.
Councilmember Wilson, thank you. Councilmember Wilson?
Yeah, they're all good. I mean, it's actually lower than we've been doing along in the last several years. Yeah, sometimes like say like the parking lot one's not a big deal, but it also seals it ahead of preventive maintenance. So I'm good with all of them. Did this come out general?
This one would probably come out of just the general road fund. The city hall would have to come out of general fund, but it would come out of our road fund dollars. So,
yeah, I'm good with it.
I'm good with it. I think we gotta keep things up. We have to stay on top of it, making it, and even Wildwood, it is our main thoroughfare. And so we need to be on top of that as well. So the optics. Crystal, is it? I'm sorry that I had to do that, but it's just the process. It's the process. No, that's fine. It's fine. So is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, I patrol during school time, and I know we have bike lanes on Davis. We have bike lanes on Wildwood, and of course, as small the street as Center is, we need them there. But Ireland is another main thoroughfare that a good majority of the kids are traversing to school on, and I'd like to see that one thought about.
Is that something that could be included?
And not necessarily
in this,
slurry, but lines.
No, the line part.
You also have a sidewalk project going on there too.
we also have a sidewalk project. To be honest, on Center Street, if you look, the line is not exactly engineered. It weaves at one point over, I believe. That road really needs to be reconstructed, basically. So that is a road where the slurry sealing that we did on Ireland really just buys time. that entire road has to be dug up and regraded and repaved.
Okay.
So I'm not sure adding lanes and, we can look into it, but I'm not sure exactly what the finished product would actually look like. And then those lanes are usually something that are, pretty engineered, because you also have to have space for parking, bike lanes, and then a center line. And what I've observed there is the center line is not really centered. So.
Okay, thank you. And thank you. So are there any public questions?
Yeah, I am a licensed painting contractor, and I have done thermo, plastic, line striping and everything. I am experienced in that, and I can quite a bit. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. Any hands raised? Any emails? Okay, then I think the consensus of the council to, as a direction to staff is go for it. Oh, I did have one more question. I just forgot. So I know we have to do this now. I know it has to be, we have to get in the queue. Will then it become a budget item for next fiscal year budget, or will we take it out of this budget?
Yeah, so we'll have to make a commitment for the specific dollar amount down the road. That dollar amount would, have to be, incorporated into the budget.
Okay.
So for example, this year, we incorporated about $100,000 for paving for this year, and obviously we're going to end up spending more than that. So the budget is always something that can be changed and amended at any time. It doesn't sit as a monolith in stone.
Right.
So, I think the point is that if this is a priority project, we'll pull it together, find the funding. It's within that realm of an expenditure of $100,000. So, but I think this is going to be more on the 150 side. So,
thank you. So we will close that and move on to ordinances and special resolution. Item number 1, 2024/1001.14, second reading by title only and adoption of ordinance number 407-2024, amending chapter 13.20 water wells of the Rio Dell Municipal Code to clarify the County Department of Environmental Health administers the city's water well permitting process. Page 86 in our package.
all right, thank you, Mayor Garnes, and thank you for reading that entire thing out. Staff is actually going to ask the council to continue both items P1 and P2 to your next regularly scheduled item. And I'm sorry to talk to the mayor.
You really read that whole thing. If I would have looked up, you could have done a timeout. I never looked up.
It's hard to read that whole thing.
It's wrong.
Okay, well, you did a really good job.
Then we will do that. And we will continue as everyone's agreeable. Continue items 1 and 2 and ordinance to our October 15th meeting.
Yes.
Now we'll go to council reports and communications.
Okay. I attended a COAD board meeting yesterday. That's the Community Organizations Active in Disaster, led by Nick Crawford. We do have a little bit of reorganization happening down here with earthquake, disaster victims and people who still have trouble with their houses. We have some organizations leaving us. So there's some reorganization happening to try to figure out what to do with those folks who still are struggling with this. I do highly recommend anybody who can attend the quarterly meeting. That's October 16th at 3 p.m. and it's always on Zoom for an hour and a half. And I'm sure we can get the invite out. If you are interested, go ahead and email me. Actually, I have it in my email, so email me, I can give it to you. Just to get a little bit of update on the way that disaster earthquake response is going to change a little bit in the city of Rio Dell. So there is that happening. Let's see, our Chamber of Commerce meets this Friday at noon in the Town of Scotia offices. Lots of Christmas stuff already, so that's kind of fun. Let's see, next Thursday I have both school board and fire district. The park survey is complete and closed. We made it to 10% of our population responding, which is exactly what we needed for it to be considered statistically valid. And I forgot the name of the fancy math theorem that says that. But that we're valid. So now we get to move on to analysis and lots of fun little pie charts. So I'm looking forward to analyzing the responses on that. Our river cleanup this past Saturday went very, very well. I want to thank everybody who helped organize that. 26 people showed up. Don't laugh at me. 26 people showed up, which is the most, I believe, that we have ever had. And over 4,000 pounds of trash was collected off of our river bars that will now, not end up in the watershed and then in the ocean. And I'm really happy about all of that. And I think Rio Dell got some pretty positive press about it, and which I would always like to see because we don't always get positive press. Last thing. Our spay and neuter vouchers are out. They are circulating in the community. We've had a lot of interest. I really just, we're looking into funding sources. I was on the phone with the McLean Foundation yesterday, and so I'm trying to line up some additional funding for that, which looks favorable, and I'm really happy. What I really want to say is I need to reiterate what a big deal that is, how important that is, and how we are the first in Humboldt County to do anything like that. So I really in the States, this is not happening. So I can't emphasize enough how proud I am to live in the city that was the first to do something about long-term solution. And I really want to thank my fellow council members because we passed that unanimously, and city staff that has been so supportive in that. And I think it's going to be a major benefit to our community in the long term. And that's it. Thank you.
Done. Councilman Rohr.
Just quick thing from HCOG last month was they had a presentation on the last chance grade. They opted for the tunnel option up there. It's a 6,000 foot tunnel. It's set back a little bit to take care of any shore degradation from rising water levels and all that. And they've also connected with local native peoples for all of the trees that they have to take out to use in their ways. And they have it all planned out. And I think it was something like 1.1 million cubic tons or something of fill taken out of there for the tunnel. But it's a big project, but it should take care of a lot of the problems they're having up there.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
Yeah, last week we had the RCEA, and I had some issues with trying with attending that, but some of it was by phone, some of it was by not being there. But one of the issues that was big on the docket is this. This is another one of these state deals. The Dabo Canyon, which is the last nuclear power plant in California, was scheduled to be shut down probably in the process of now. Now it's going to go till 2030. And the reason for that is because they don't have enough electricity to run the state of California. And so in that process, PG&E got a $1.3 billion loan from the state of California in order to upgrade and secure the operations of Dabo Canyon. And so in that, it's not just RCEA, it's everybody in the state of California pays that back. And how you pay it back, you will not see a statement on your PG&E bill or RCA bill, which is only the power portion, not the distribution lines, but it's the generation part. You won't see something on your bill that says Dabo Canyon, this is your part. And so it's included in the bundle rate. However, in this, since everybody's already paying for it, whether or not RCEA includes that in their power mix, because they're trying to get to 100% renewable or non-carbon, which doesn't come from the power that turns that light on. That light probably comes from Scotia, the electrons And if they're not going from there, they're coming from Humboldt Bay, power facility or Humboldt Bay plant, which is why you get turned off your power, PSPS event that we just had from Monday and I think Tuesday, I think it's Monday too, is being picked up by that, which is natural gas, or it's coming across 36, which comes from the grid, you know, the wheel light radar. So at the end of the day, you're paying for this, but they had to decide whether or not they would include it in their mix and count it as their mixture. Am I making sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was quite a bit of public comment of people that came and opposed this because RCA is part of their mission statement is they include no nuclear. And so if they accepted this roughly $500,000 worth of electricity that they purchased, then it would have to enter into their mix, and their mix wouldn't be nuclear free. And even though nuclear has no way possible to be up there, it can't hit from Santa Maria, where Dale Canyon is, or in the other. But this took up a big portion of the meeting to finally vote this down. And so it'll have to come up again, probably around this time next year. And one thing I'd like to have is that we bring the RCA people down here, maybe as a presentation to explain, you can do it better than I can, explain this to what you're buying and not getting, and then they'll vote on it. And I'm sure they'll vote it down because but what I want is rather than Councilmember Wilson being the one that makes this decision to say I'm going to vote one way or the other on an issue that's a lot more sensitive locally than I realized. I would like the consensus of the council at that point with an explanation by a smarter individual than me to explain it so that the council I can say, well, the city of Rio Dell, by such and such a decision, says yes or no to whether or not they give the money, the power that you've already bought in them, that you don't really use. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Does not, Southern Cal Edison doesn't own the applicant?
They could. I no, I think it's PG&E. I have to look it up, but I will look it up. But because at one time I have, and then I have an opportunity to go through the Diablo Canyon, and it didn't come about. Who owns the Diablo Canyon? PG&E or Southern California Edison? And so we get on to come.
Okay. It's me, Southern Cal Edison, I'm almost 99% sure. Okay, but thank you, and thank you for finding that out.
It says PG&E.
Yeah,
so, and it's applied to about 8 to 10% of the California's energy. Right.
Thank you.
Now, I just wanted to thank again, John, thank you for putting that together this weekend. It was really nice. It was nice to see so many of our community out helping. Our city manager came down to help. We also had one of our public utility workers with the backhoe down to lift some of the heavy stuff, which I'm sure was great help, even though I wasn't down there. Proper Wellness had the business. People were down helping. Shots supplied coffee. So it was sort of just a really nice all the way around community effort. And I appreciate it. And that's it.
Thank you. And I as well want to say thank you and thank Denise, who's no longer on here, and thank city staff, Mayor Pro Tem Carter, who was instrumental in a lot of stuff. But it was a great event, and it really made, I think it made us all feel pretty good that 26, I said 30 when I was telling people, but 26 even for our community it's a fantastic number to come out and to volunteer to pick up trash. So
who were some of the other kids that were there? They came from out of town?
I don't know.
Okay.
so that was great, and, I'm the alternate for the mayors on, LAPCO now, so I went to be introduced and turned out that one of them wasn't there, so I had to actually sit on the board that day, and, it was very interesting. It is, you get more information, you get history of different, communities, different, pieces of land, different areas. You actually get the true history going backwards, and it's very interesting, and I never thought I'd want to sit on that board, but I'm kind of happy that I have to be there now because it gives you great detail. I'm also on the Great Redwood Trail board, and I had my first meeting on September 18th. It is really, really great and important. Rio Dell is now at the table. We are no longer on the table.
Yes.
We're no longer thinking about the table. We are at the table. I've already been sent maps and information regarding Rio Dell from the Redwood Trail Board to me to look at and to ask questions, to give me the ability to bring down and have different members of the council look at it and put any input that we have. We now have a first-hand input. And so that's really fantastic, and I'm really excited about that. I have a seismic commission meeting on the 10th of October, and League of California Cities annual conference. I will be there on the 15th, Drew coming back on the 18th of October. And I think that is all that I have. So on the 15th,
Oh, yeah.
you will be sitting in the chair.
I can do that.
What
We had comments. One last comment on the trash thing. There's one more cleanup on October 19th.
Okay.
And Pack Out Green Team's gonna be here.
Okay, we have another cleanup on October 19th. Meeting where?
We'll just do right here.
Meeting here at City Hall at probably 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. And it will be for the river or for the city?
It's the river again. Yeah, we need to finish.
Okay, we need to finish up that. So October 19th, everyone who's listening and everyone we can pass that on to, an additional cleanup on October 19th, meeting at City Hall at 9 o'clock. Oh. And I think that's it. There is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned until October 15th.
All right.